If you're a horror fan and Netflix is your main streaming platform, you only have a couple more weeks to watch these great horror movies. Netflix, you're doing us dirty. Welcome back to the Nonstop Horror YouTube channel where we celebrate the genre all year long. My name is Cameron, and today we're talking about some movies that are leaving Netflix for some reason. Spooky season is here. October's right around the corner, and it just blows my mind that these movies are leaving Netflix at the end of the month. Don't know what they're doing over there. Someone fire the head of programming. Not sure what's up. But these are 5 horror movies that I would highly recommend that you watch if you haven't already, or revisiting them if it's been a while. And I'm not sure where they're going to be in October, if they're going to other streaming platforms, or if you're just gonna have to pay to rent or buy them. I'm not really sure. So I just want to get this video out to let the people know in case you want to watch these before they're gone off of Netflix. But speaking of horror movie streaming platforms, right now is the perfect time to try out Shudder. They're a streaming platform that is exclusive for horror fans. There's nothing but horror on there. So it's the perfect streaming platform to have right around September, October right now. If you haven't tried it out before, you can sign up with a free trial down in the description. You can sign up right through Amazon. It's real nice and easy. And if you decide to keep it, it's only like $6 or $7 a month. So well worth it in my opinion. But enough of that, let's get right into the movies that are leaving Netflix at the end of September. So It Follows got an honorable mention in my video about the best horror movies on Netflix, and it was an honorable mention because it's only available on the higher paid tiers. I have a basic plan right now because Netflix isn't the best when it comes to horror, so the fact that It Follows was on there wasn't a huge priority for me. But if you do happen to have one of those higher paid tiers, It Follows leaving the platform is a huge deal. I rewatched It Follows recently and it still holds up. If you live under a rock and you don't know what It Follows is about, it's basically about this curse that is passed on through sexual encounters. And so we follow this group of friends that is dealing with this curse throughout the whole movie. This movie is on a whole other level. I love It Follows. Everything from the performances, the cinematography, the sound design, the soundtrack, just everything culminates into one of the best horror movies of the 2010s. This one came out back in 2014, and it's just one of my favorite horror movies to date. You're especially gonna love this one if you liked Longlegs this year and you want more Micah Monroe in your life. She stars in It Follows, and she's amazing in it. The director of this film used wide-angle lenses to give it this expansive look and cites John Carpenter and George A. Romero as influences visually and aesthetically. So like, what more do you really need to go check this movie out? Whether you like it or not, The Conjuring is one of the biggest horror franchises in the world right now. There are like 5 movies now that have come out, and unfortunately The Conjuring and The Conjuring 2 are leaving Netflix at the end of the month. Speaking of The Conjuring, I put out my first episode of Movie Wars a couple weeks ago that features The Conjuring. It's The Conjuring versus Insidious. That was a really fun video to put together, so if you haven't watched it yet, go check that out. But yeah, The Conjuring and The Conjuring 2 are leaving Netflix, unfortunately. The Conjuring, of course, is based on case files of Ed and Lorraine Warren, who are real-life paranormal investigators. The first movie is about a family that moves into this house in the rural countryside, and they start experiencing supernatural, paranormal things happening in their home, and so they call upon Ed and Lorraine to come in and see what's going on. It's a really great movie. It holds up. I watched it recently for that Movie War video. I'm willing to bet money that you've already seen it, but if it's been a while, maybe consider revisiting it. So The Conjuring 2 obviously was a sequel to the first one, and some people seem to favor The Conjuring 2 over The Conjuring. So that kind of just speaks to the quality of the film. I have not rewatched The Conjuring 2 in quite a while. I only watched the first one, but judging by IMDb ratings and just conversations that I've had with horror fans recently about these movies, I have no doubt that it holds up just as well as the first one. Like I said, some people say The Conjuring 2 is better than the first one, but I can neither confirm nor deny just because it's been so long since I've seen the second one. And then obviously the spawn more sequels or prequels, spin-offs, whatever you want to call them. The Nun, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, The Nun 2. So yeah, it's just this huge franchise now, and if you haven't seen the beginnings of that, make sure to watch The Conjuring and The Conjuring 2 before they leave Netflix at the end of September. Bodies, Bodies, Bodies also got a shout out in my video where I talked about the best horror movies on Netflix. I just really like Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. It's kind of like a comedy horror, teen, Gen Z kind of horror drama. It's about this group of friends who are out partying at this house, this giant mansion house. It's either spring break or they're just on a summer break, some kind of break, I think. But they decided to play this like whodunit mystery game. I think it's like an amped up version of hide and seek basically, but their pretend game takes a serious turn when one of the characters actually dies, and they try to figure out what is going on, who did it, and it's a really great movie. I'm not going to say too much more about it because there's a big spoiler that could be said about it, but if you haven't seen Bodies, 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 it's really great. And again, that one's leaving at the end of September too. I feel like there should be a trigger warning anytime that Pete Davidson is in a movie or anything that you're gonna watch. So just, you know, Pete Davidson stars in this, but I wouldn't let that deter you too much. So the fifth and final horror adjacent Halloween type movie that's leaving Netflix is Monster House. So honestly and admittedly, I'm not the biggest fan of animated films. I just don't watch a whole lot of them, and it's just not really my vibe, but Monster House is one of my absolute favorites, and it's one that I revisit at least like once every couple of years, but I definitely want to watch it more frequently, especially to introduce it to my children. But that's what makes Monster House so great, is it's a good horror movie to introduce your children to. There are some very creepy elements in it, so I wouldn't say it's perfect for just any kid, but if your child has been wanting to get into the horror genre and see what it's all about, like Monster House would be a pretty good starting point for them. Monster House is about these three friends who discover that the house of their old, cranky, like stereotypical old neighbor is actually like a living, breathing creature. And we go on this whole adventure of them basically trying to convince the adults around them that this house is a monster and it's haunted, and of course they don't believe them. And yeah, it's just great how everything culminates. And I love the style of the movie. The animation is it's just up my alley. I really dig it. I don't know. There's just something about this movie that I really like. Maybe it's just because it's, you know, a scary horror animation kids movie. And that's why it's always gripped me. I don't know what it is, but this is one that I revisit as an adult still. And so I highly recommend, if you haven't seen it, make sure and go watch it before it leaves Netflix. Again, I'm not sure where any of these are going to end up in October. They're pretty big heavy hitters, all 5 of these movies, so I don't know what's gonna happen. Well, there you go, guys. I just wanted to put out this video to give you a little quick warning that these movies are leaving Netflix at the end of the month. They're some of the best horror movies that I've seen, and if you haven't seen them yet, you're doing yourself a disservice. So again, if Netflix is your main streaming platform and you're a horror fan, make sure to give these ones a watch. I will probably do an update video at the beginning of October just to let you know if any of these movies are on other streaming platforms. I can't imagine that none of them will be streaming at the beginning of October, but maybe that's just some sort of money grab opportunity where they know people will want to watch them and so they'll pay for them. That wouldn't surprise me one bit. There you go, guys. Just doing my due diligence for the people. Make sure to like the video and subscribe. I appreciate all the support that you guys have shown me here on YouTube so far. If you want to join the daily horror conversations that we're having in the Nonstop Horror community, make sure to go follow us on Threads and Instagram, and you can be part of this amazing horror community, especially with October just like 2 weeks away. There's a lot of fun stuff that I have on the horizon. So make sure you stick around and keep an eye on what's happening around here. So there you go, guys. Those are 5 horror movies that are leaving the Netflix platform at the end of the month. Again, I have no idea why that's happening, but you better get on it if you want to watch these movies with your Netflix plan before the end of the month. And again, I don't want to get too salesy, but Shudder is more than worth the subscription price, and you can get a free trial using the link down below. But it's my personal opinion. You can even watch my Shudder videos to see what movies I recommend on the platform to see if, you know, maybe that urges you in that direction, but no obligation, obviously. If you're wondering about horror movies streaming on other platforms, I've got a whole playlist of videos around that topic. You'll probably enjoy one of these other videos on the screen as well. My name is Cameron. You've been watching the Nonstop Horror YouTube channel, and remember to embrace the fear all year long.